by Arkansas, for Arkansas. This is Inside Arkansas Live.
And welcome into Inside Arkansas Live here on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. I'm your host, John Neighbors, and Andrew Ellis joining me as well. Curtis is going to be on a little vacay for the Labor Day weekend, so just me and Andrew. But I feel like it's been a while since it's just been me and you, Andrew, doing any sort of content. I don't think we've done anything together just by ourselves on Inside Arkansas just yet, so this is a first.
Yeah, we're making history right here, and I was prepared to come on here and just kind of do a little mystery with Curtis, and where's he at? Is there, trouble in paradise? Like, what's going on? But you squashed it right away, so no rumors today. But yeah, I feel like it's even rare, like outside of work, like whenever you and I are ever one-on-one, because we just immediately start talking about Star Wars or like, superhero movies or something, because like we can't talk about it as much with Curtis.
No, that's in fact something funny that I've always wanted to bring up with y'all is just how it's like each of us, like as a group, when we're good, but like there's always something that me and you can talk about, but Curtis is out, or you and Curtis talk about where I'm out. It's like I told Curtis, I guess me and Curtis's thing is just since we're like the same age and much older, maybe that's.
Well, y'all talk about y'all's Vegas trip like all the time, and I'm always like,
yeah, I feel like you're.
I remember when y'all went on a Vegas trip.
Yep. Yeah, that's probably the best one there too. So, but yeah, it's gonna be me and Andrew. We're gonna, of course, hear from a lot of your chats, folks. So now that the game is settled in after a day, we're gonna talk a little bit more about that. Maybe do a little bit of Oklahoma State and looking ahead to what to expect out of them. Big college football weekend, which we'll talk about too, and also discuss a few things that Sam Pittman said last night. But I'll start here, Andrew. Just after a good night's sleep and coming out here on this Friday from what last night, which was great. We had a bunch of people watching. It was great. But have you changed anything? Have you thought of anything? Has anything just popped up where you're like, oh, man, that I feel differently, or I should have talked about that last night?
Not really, honestly. Like, I wish I did have, I slept on it and I got some, like, real clarity on anything. But no, I feel like we kind of covered it all. I mean, it's one of those games where you don't want to look too deep into it and you don't want to try and draw too many big picture conclusions. But, John, I was trying to think of, like, times where Arkansas's had an opener that went that well and the team turned out to suck. Because I feel like a lot of people I've been seeing that a lot of, like, oh, well, yeah, I mean, they beat UAPB, but, like, doesn't mean anything. But I'm like, the way they beat them, and look, again, it's UAPB. They are truly, like, Arkansas might not play a team worse than that for the next decade, truly. But it's like, I feel like all the times when Arkansas has a really resounding victory like that to start the year, the team usually ends up being pretty good. Like, it's rare that you see a performance that good and the team ends up going 4-8. Like, a lot of the times when Arkansas's had bad years, we can all, like, kind of like last year, we can always point back to the opener or that first test where they didn't pass it as well as they should have. And you're like, oh, that was kind of a red flag. Like, there definitely aren't any red flags coming from this game. I mean, we'll talk, we talked about Taylor Green's accuracy and things like that. Although we feel like we set the stage for that. We kind of told people that was going to happen a little bit. But I definitely think that Arkansas is going to have worse performances, no doubt. They're going to have issues that pop up throughout the year, but the fact that literally none of them popped up week one feels like a decent enough sign. Like, I'm trying not to, like, freak out too much and be like, this team is amazing. But
right.
I mean, that was such a good performance where it's like, hey, we just get to have fun this weekend. We get to kind of relax. And for everyone that thinks that we hate the Hogs or that we're, like, too critical or whatever, we would much prefer for it to be like this all the time. Like,
yes.
Where it's just simple. They take care of business and whip everybody up. And then we all have fun. Like, I mean, we all had a lot of fun last night.
Yeah, it was. And also the thing is when we talked about it, even going into the game, it was like, hey, if they lose or not, of course, if they lose, it would have been bad. But even if they won barely or didn't look convincing, people would be like, I'm not sure about this. But Arkansas blew them out. They did what they were supposed to do. So it's like, what else could you ask from them? Like, what else could Arkansas have done last night to make you feel good? Because let's be honest, Andrew, and you know this, Arkansas isn't exactly just been, the past 10 years, they've always dominated opponents that they were supposed to be better than. They haven't. They've lost some really, really bad games. And so my whole thing on this is like, yeah, should you have done this? Yes. Were you doing what you're supposed to? Yes. But, just take advantage of it and be happy in the fact that you destroyed an opponent that you were supposed to, where you're talking about just a couple years ago, you needed a punt return miracle to beat Missouri State in Fayetteville, So, like, take it, enjoy it. We can be critical. We can talk about those things, but considering where Arkansas has been before, it's a huge upgrade. And also, let's be honest too, Andrew, that they've last time they beat UAPB, they went 9-4. So it could happen. But that's I agree with you though. That type of performance, you don't see that type of performance from a team that's going to go 3-9.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, look, we talked about it on yesterday's show of kind of like what would have to happen for us to, when we set the bar really high, where I was like, anything inside of a 40-point win would be a little bit concerning to me. And I feel kind of vindicated after seeing the way it played out, where I'm like, yeah, if Arkansas had, like your prediction, not to throw you under the bus, but your prediction was 38-10. Imagine if that game had been 38-10. This show would feel a lot different. And so it's not like we're just over here reacting to positivity and we were going to pump them up no matter what since they won. We kind of said like they needed to do it in impressive fashion. They needed to make it look easy, and they did. Now, for everyone that's yelling at their screens, being like, but now they got to play Oklahoma State. Yes, we know that, we understand that. But I think that it's hard not to feel if you've only maybe 1 or 2% feel a little bit better about this squad. I mean, nobody had ever done that at Arkansas. 10 touchdowns on 10 drives. I feel like that was a little bit of a statement. And there's something to be said about doing what you're supposed to do and beating up on bad teams. It doesn't guarantee you anything moving forward, but yeah, that's really what it comes down to. Is like we've just come accustomed to Arkansas not doing what they were supposed to do in this situation. And so yeah, I definitely, and look, I know that everyone thought it was dramatic, but like last year's team wouldn't have done that. In fact, they didn't do that in War Memorial last year. And so I think at the very least we can determine like, hey, this is not last year's team. This is a different offense. I mean, they have a different play caller, all that. How much better are they going to be? That is still to be determined. I mean, there's still plenty of tests for this team to face, but I think you can definitely tell this isn't a team that has a bunch of red flags like last year's team did at this time last year.
No, not at all. Not at all. In fact, when we're sitting here talking about accuracy being a possibility of an issue for a quarterback that completed 70% of his passes, that shows you just how great this game was. like when that's kind of the thing that we've been bringing up and criticizing. So now, and it's also great because now you have the Labor Day weekend. Razorback fans don't have to be concerned about anything as far as waking up in the middle of the night being concerned about that pass protection or anything. They get to enjoy their weekend, enjoy it of college football, which I know we'll talk about. But now you turn the page to Oklahoma State, and we'll get a chance to see what Oklahoma State is all about. And we're not going to do a deep dive preview. That'll be next week when we do that. But just your overall thoughts of going into this game now. I don't think it's probably changed much since the UAPB game and you dominate them. But I mean, how are we still feeling about this heading into this game, this matchup, road game against an Oklahoma State team that is pretty consistent, maybe not always as far as game to game, but season to season, they're perennially a 7 to 11 win team every year under Mike Gundy.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, we're going to see Oklahoma State tomorrow, and so we'll all kind of have a more definitive opinion on how we feel about that game after watching them in action a little bit. But I think the one thing that Arkansas should be taking away from last night's game is confidence. That offense, they talked about it all fall camp. We expect to score every time we have the ball. Well, it's easy to feel that way going into the season, but it's even easier to feel that way when you literally have scored on every single possession of the season. So I'd imagine, all week at practice, Arkansas is going to have a little bit of a pep in their step. They get a couple extra days to prepare, which should help them feel a little bit better going into that week. But I just think the confidence is such a big deal because say that this Oklahoma State game were happening in November, I'm sure we would feel completely differently. There's a lot of ups and downs, and then you start getting into you're banged up, you're injured, you're coming off of this. Like there's way more variables that are happening when you play them later in the season. And so I feel like in a weird way, even though it's on the road, Arkansas could not be playing this game at a better time because one, it's 11 a.m. You're on the road. That's always kind of a factor for the road team. And Oklahoma State has, believe it or not, a real game week 1. John, do you know the spread for that game is 10? They're playing South Dakota State tomorrow, and the spread is 10, which was the same spread for North Dakota State versus Colorado last night, which ended up coming down to literally the final play. And I'm not saying Oklahoma State's going to be in trouble tomorrow or they might lose. In fact, they'll probably win by 20 or something like that. But I just want people, in case they are scrolling scores tomorrow and they see, Oklahoma State won 38-21, and they're like, oh, what a rough performance. They have a somewhat of a real game. And so I wonder, just from that confidence standpoint, who's going to be the more confident team next week going into that matchup? Again, we'll see what Oklahoma State looks like. But if you're Arkansas right now, you got to be feeling pretty good, and that makes you dangerous. And this new look offense, people still don't really know what to expect. Taylor Green, they haven't seen a ton of. And so I feel like all of these factors favor Arkansas a little bit. Now, again, we'll see. Oklahoma State might win 150-0 tomorrow and have even more confidence. But I feel like Arkansas overall, you're going to see, without Patrick Kutas, still one of the better versions of Arkansas, just because it's so early. There's nothing else going on. They should be able to go out there and just play ball. And so we'll get to see what this Arkansas team is made of real quick, but it's hard to imagine them just coming out and laying a complete egg after how good they looked in week one.
Are you one of those people that look at the opponent that you're about to face and be like, okay, I want them to win this weekend, so that way next weekend they may overlook it or be too confident? Like, are you one of those people that believe? And if so, what would be the best case scenario for Arkansas in this game? Do we want them to lose, or is it about winning, but maybe only winning by a little? Do you want them to win big so they get too confident? Like, what is that?
You definitely don't want them to lose. And I just mean that from a standpoint of, like, that game is exciting. We've been looking forward to it all offseason. It's going to be a pretty fun atmosphere, which may or may not help Arkansas, but I think it's just a game that has some juice, and it's one that the nation will be looking at. And if Oklahoma State loses tomorrow, it's going to lose a lot of that luster. And again, the hungry dog runs faster. If Oklahoma State loses, they're not going to, like, be caught napping next week. And so maybe that helps them a little bit. But you don't want them to look too good. You don't want them to look like you looked last night. I think you kind of want them. I mean, the spread's 10. I think you kind of want to see it be like a 34-24 type of game where they get the job done, but you see some holes you can exploit. You see them have to actually run offense, because that's another thing is Arkansas was just running straight vanilla base set. Like, they didn't have to pull out any tricks to get the job done last night. We want to see Oklahoma State dig deep into their bag a little bit tomorrow. But I think just a solid get the job done win, but doesn't blow anyone away and doesn't raise any huge red flags. You just want them to show up and do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, what is their running back's name? The guy that got in trouble?
Ollie Gordon.
Yeah, Ollie Gordon. So I wonder if he's going to run 50 times in this game, because that's what Mike Gundy said his punishment was going to be. That's the biggest punishment he'll get. We're just going to give him the ball 50 times. It's like, yeah, what a punishment.
Hopefully he's sober tomorrow night.
Yeah, well, here's hoping. But it's going to be a good game. I think no matter what. But going back to the confidence thing, which I think is interesting. I look at last season, and it was weird all around because Arkansas's best performances came away from Fayetteville, and their worst performances were in Fayetteville. Makes sense out of that. But it's like you could tell when the confidence got lost, because we forget sometimes that last year, yes, you lost to BYU at home, but you lost by a touchdown. You lost to LSU and Alabama on the road by 3. You lost to Ole Miss by 7. Those 3 teams right there were all 10-win teams. Like they were that good, and you were that close. But then you saw when the confidence got lost and the wheels fell off. So, yeah, I think confidence is going to be huge. And that's where, in this particular game, since we saw great offense and great defense last night, 70-0 usually means great of both. But it's a matter of, against Oklahoma State, what's it going to come down to? Is it going to be the offense or the defense that's going to win this game for Arkansas?
I feel like it's the offense, and I feel like, everybody always says your defense and run game travel, and I think that's true to an extent. And so I don't think it's going to take like the defense taking a massive step forward or anything like that. But will this offense travel? Will Taylor Green's, everything that he put together last night? He gave us a lot. He gave us a lot of good, some bad mixed in there, but what version of him shows up? I mean, this is a really massive spot for him to kind of prove that he's that guy and solidify himself. And we'll talk about a guy later in the show who seems to be adamant that we got a quarterback controversy on our hands. But I think that it would be all eyes are going to be on that offense, especially after they made a lot of headlines last night. Everyone's tweeting about Taylor Green. Everyone's tweeting about Jaquin Jackson waving at the cheerleaders and, 10 possessions, 10 touchdowns, all that. You just simply, if you're Arkansas and you want to keep this fan base excited, even if you won like 17-16 or something like that, obviously fans would be thrilled and everybody would accept that, no problem. But it would definitely take a little bit of the wind out of the sails if it's like, oh man, we thought we had this like really awesome offense, and all of a sudden, maybe not. So I think, I'm not saying the offense has to go out there and score 70 again, but I think if Arkansas is going to beat Oklahoma State, they're going to have to play a pretty good game offensively. I don't think I'm breaking any news there. And so I want to say there's more pressure on that offense, but I feel like this team is going to win or lose games based on if they're able to outscore some opponents.
Yeah, because the offense, say if it was 17-16, which you'd be happy with a win, that usually a low-scoring game like that means like one of three things. Either you had a lot of 3-and-outs / punts, you had a lot of turnovers, or you had missed field goals. Like that would be the reason why, and none of those are good. So, yeah, it would make it pretty concerning regardless, but I don't know. I just feel like either way, this game is going to be a game that one of these teams, if not both of these teams, scored at least 35 points. Like, I just feel like it's going to be a high-scoring game, high-scoring affair. And who knows? Maybe it's one of those matchups that comes down to whoever has the ball last, and they're the ones that end up winning. It could be that. But confidence is big. Confidence is high. He said, when you got Quentin Jackson waving at cheerleaders, like, I mean, come on. That's you can't get much better than that. That's awesome. So, but yeah, we're going to have actually some really cool news real quick before we get some of the chats and kind of move on, folks. We're going to be in Stillwater next week. How about that? We're going to be hanging out, doing post-game action from Eskimo Joe's there in Stillwater. So you Razorback fans, they're going to be making the trip. Want to come hang out with us? Come say, hey, look at these guys. We've got to meet them. And who knows, maybe because everyone's freaking out about your lack of facial hair, Andrew, maybe you'll have your facial hair back by that point. But
I'll be getting ID'd.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, you'll get carded at the door. But yeah, we're going to be out there at Eskimo Joe's for our post-game show. So that's going to be a lot of fun. One of the iconic places there in Stillwater. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. Pretty excited of going back there because Andrew, last time I was there, battles into the night and Hagen Smith striking out Rock Regia. So pretty epic game and pretty epic weekend. So maybe this one will be another one too.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And for any fans making the trip, I mean, I know post game you're going to the game, but it might be a little bit tough to get. But we highly recommend come out and buy a lot of things from the menu and cite us as your reason for doing that. That's what we always like. We always love when that kind of stuff happens. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that. I'll be interested to see like what it looks like if it's going to be just a bunch of Oklahoma State fans in the Eskimo Joe's. Like how much I'd imagine Eskimo Joe's gets pretty popping on Saturdays. And you know, I was also blown away by just how many people showed up to our post game stream last night. Which if you missed that, as soon as this show's over, go check that one out. We had a lot of fun as soon as the game was over last night, going live. So I imagine Saturday, depending on how the game goes, we'll see. Could backfire on us, but you know, a little bit more of an opportune time. It's not 10 p.m. on a Thursday. I feel like we'll get a nice little interaction with the chat and everything. So I look forward to post games at Eskimo Joe, but I look forward to just post game watch parties like the rest of the year. Like it's going to be a lot of fun. You know, experiencing this Razorback season with all you fans.
Yeah, rumor has it that also at Eskimo Joe's we'll be having a thing called the phone line in place, so people will be able to call into the post game show because that's a thing that people want to do.
Yeah,
and there's nothing better than getting a bunch of drunk Razorback fans to react over a big win or a bad loss. It's always going to be very, very entertaining.
Yeah, we're gonna make y'all blow into a breathalyzer to make sure that you are intoxicated before you can call in. It's like it's like a reverse. You know, they have the cars where you have to blow in to make sure. It's gonna be the reverse of that.
Yeah, we won't allow you guys to call in sober because that's no fun. Nobody wants that. Yeah. So a few chats real quick before I know we'll continue on. But Aaron, shout out to Aaron. Appreciate you and the sponsored comment, as we call it, sponsored by Aaron Harbison. Sorry, I kept seeing Harrison, but Harbison. He says, my fiance is an Oklahoma State student, and I need the Hogs to win this game. Yes, you do.
I tell you, man, there's nothing worse than your spouse, girlfriend, whatever, that like don't realize how big of a deal it is to you. And so they're kind of like rubbing it in your face. And it's like they don't realize that you're like really going through it over there. That happens to me a lot with fights. Hillary will just be like really celebrating someone getting brutally knocked out, and it's like a fighter I've come to really love. And I'm like over there depressed, and she's like, "Whoa, how about that?" And like, so I can just imagine what our guy Aaron here is probably gonna be going through if Oklahoma State gets the job done next week. We'll be cheering for you, man. We wish you the best of luck, but appreciate you coming through for us.
Yeah, I actually of all the. It's not like I have a lot, but like my ex-girlfriends and all the girls I was like actually serious with, I don't think any of them was a fan or have been a fan of the team that I'm not of. Maybe that's my problem. Maybe I need to like go into finding like an Ole Miss gal or something like that and go through it. But yeah, can't imagine that. Also, Jelly Mac wants to say, talk about Taylor Green's first throw against that horrible wind. I heard it was horrible. I think accuracy was 9 out of 10. Okay, here's the thing. I'm going to be honest. I was there at the game. There was wind, but it wasn't horrible. That was not a thing at all.
Sam said 8 miles an hour. And he cited the wind as well, where he was like, yeah, Taylor just didn't throw it great, but also little bit of wind.
No,
I don't know.
no, that's not a thing. That's not a thing. I'm sorry. Like trust me. We've all been in games where there's wind. Like there's wind. That was not an impact. Because here's the thing, too, Andrew. Even if it was, it would not have been that short-armed. Like if it was like coming a little bit less, that's one thing. But that thing was a good 5 yards at least where it should have been behind. So the wind's not impacting it that much unless it was a tornado or something. So
shout out to that DB for just not even coming close to making the inner. Like it should have been an easy one. He just, hit him right in the chest. It was tough.
I know, because it's like if that was the opposite thing, and like if that was Arkansas against Oklahoma State and they dropped something like that, it's a game changer. So yeah, that was pretty brutal. Wade says Arkansas has shot themselves in the foot no matter the competition. Last night was the first time in a long time it didn't happen. Good point. Yeah, I mean it's it was nice to see that for a change, for them to not have to worry about any Razorback fan have to be worrying about a loss in anything, because it has been. I mean, I guess Western Illinois. I keep saying Western Illinois. I don't know if that was who it is. I think it was, but
it's last year, Western Carolina.
Thank you. One of those Western teams. Like last year, I didn't feel like that game was ever in doubt. There was problems of not running the ball, but
yeah, we knew they were going to win, and I feel like last night it would have been the same thing. Like we always knew they were going to win, but not all blowouts are created equally. Sometimes you can blow a team out, and there's still some issues that arise, and so it is what it is. But I did definitely. We've all seen it happen before. We don't need to explain to y'all that sometimes these games don't go according to plan.
Yes, we don't. That's something we have to buy into. Also, shout out to Casey. I actually wanted to bring this up last night, but yeah, Bet Saracen, friend of ours and potential future partners of ours here in Arkansas. But they avoided all losing bets last night due to the shortened quarters, which is the right thing to do. I mean, you have to do something like that because I mean. What other alternative do you have? Be like, oh, nope, sorry, you got to keep them all in, even though they played 10 minutes less than what they were supposed to. Got to keep them in. So shout out to Bet Saracen for that.
Well, and I like that they cashed the winning bets but voided the losing bets. Like I love that because I've been on the other end of that as well. Where I remember one time betting on a team that was like minus 28, and it was like 63-3, and there was 7 minutes left in the game, and there was a lightning delay, and they just called it. And so the casino I was using at the time, not Bet Saracen, voided the bet. I was like, no, we covered. And so, yeah, all the time you see sportsbooks try to do stuff like that where they're like, just no action. I like this. Bet Saracen was like, we're going to give out money to all the winners and we're not going to cost all the losers. Like it's hard to complain about that.
Yeah. I wish everything in life was that way, just never, if you lose something, you don't actually lose. You still win. And that it'd be nice if everything in life was that.
Yeah.
Also,
I would bet all the time if that were the case.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Probably wouldn't have any issues with betting. Jeremy says, question is next week, a must win for Arkansas and Pittman.
Nah, not a must win. Like obviously there's a lot riding on this game. It would be in their best interest to win. But I don't think it's like something they couldn't recover from. Because if they say they lose to Oklahoma State, but then they like beat Auburn, beat A&M, or maybe split that LSU Tennessee game, like there's plenty of opportunities for Arkansas to kind of work their way back, especially this early in the year. I will say though, I mean, it's about as pivotal of a week 2 road game non-conference as you can have, frankly. Yeah. It kind of reminds me a little bit of that Texas Tech game when Bielema went there. I guess it was his second year. Yep. And they went to Texas Tech, and kind of all offseason we looked at that and we were like, if they lose that game, I don't know how this team makes a bowl. If they win that game, I could be talked into a lot. I think that's kind of where we're at, but I don't think it's a must win. Do you agree?
No, I do agree, because it's the second game of the season, and it also depends on if you did lose it, how you lost it. Like if you get trounced, okay, but if it's like a 48-45 final score, yeah, you got plenty of opportunities to make up for that loss. It's just about making up for the loss. And you can make it up against a team like a Texas A&M or a team like Auburn. Depending on what your predictions were, there could, because I have Arkansas beating Oklahoma State. Did you have Arkansas beating Oklahoma State? I can't remember.
I did, yeah.
Okay, Curtis was the one that had him losing, I believe, to Oklahoma State. But yeah, if you lose to Oklahoma State, then it's like, all right, well, you just got to pick it up another game. It's kind of like in college basketball, where if you have a bad loss, it's like, okay, well, you got to pick it up somewhere else. You got to beat somebody else. and they're going to still have some time to do that. So, also shout out to a woman named Hillary for the sponsored comment, a super sticker. So, yeah,
man, that girl is smoking hot. Jeez, shout out to Hillary Frank. Look at her. Appreciate the love. The money bags are just rolling in early on this Friday morning.
Yeah, no. I mean, over here we're gonna start dancing with it. I would just assume it's because Curtis is gone. That's why.
I think everyone's celebrating. Yeah,
they're like these guys look homeless. We need to give them money. We need to.
I don't look homeless anymore now that I shaved.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
surprised. Actually, Hillary, I gotta be honest. She wasn't thrilled about the shaving, about me being clean shaven.
So does that mean
I thought I'd be in the doghouse for a little bit, but I'm happy to see it turns out we're still cool.
Now she's giving you money for being on here and shaving and clean shave. We'll get some other chats, but I wanted to bring this up too because last night again was great, and we talked about it, but a lot of the talk, of course, was about Bobby Petrino and about the offense and defense and players and everything. But I feel like the one person that did not get talked about really or given credit or anything like that was Sam Pittman. Like, just to be honest, he didn't get talked about. And I know it's the first game and there's still a lot that could go wrong here this season, but playing the what if game, or assuming if Arkansas still continues to have success and if they go out and beat Oklahoma State, maybe they beat Auburn, like maybe they become like an 8-win team, something crazy like that. Is Pittman ever going to get the credit? Like, is anybody going to be like, man, all right, Sam, there you go? Or is it just constantly going to be Bobby Petrino or be the players or whatever? Sam Pittman ever going to get credit if this team's successful this year?
So, frankly, he's not going to get more than Bobby Petrino. Like, it's never going to be that. But I do think, like, at some point, especially if, like, it really works out and this offense is awesome all year, I think a lot of people, he'll be like a footnote where people are like, you know what? We got to give him a nod. And we've actually said that all offseason, that we've been impressed with the way he's handled it, in that, like, he doesn't mind being like, yeah, Bobby's a stud. Bobby's the star here. He doesn't mind sharing that spotlight at all. And, we're talking about a guy who, has been for a while, was like really beloved and kind of like the centerpiece of Arkansas football. He was getting so much credit. You could see a guy like that. I mean, all these college football coaches have massive egos. And so I think it says a lot about Pittman that he's been willing to kind of take a back seat, because I think ultimately he knows, we got to win this year. It doesn't matter how we win. It doesn't matter who is the reason we do it. And so I really think, like, it really doesn't matter too much to him, but I don't think he's going to get a ton of credit. But I mean, if Arkansas ends up winning like 8 or 9 games, you got to give it up to the dude.
Yeah, because if you're the head coach, you can't just pick and choose the times that you're going to give him credit. Like in 2021, when Arkansas went 9-4, I think people were saying they gave love to Kendall Briles and Barry Odom, but it was Sam Pittman. Like, people are like, man, Sam's got it. He understands it. Even in the year that they went 3-7 in the COVID year, but because they've been so horrible for so long, it's like, man, Pittman's got these guys playing for him and everything. So if you're going to give him credit then, and then a few years later, after going through some struggles, they end up being successful again, and then you're like, well, no, it's not him this time. Like, that's not how it works. He's still the head coach. And like you said, Andrew, the way he's handled this has been so much better than what almost every other head coach would handle it. Probably if I was a head coach, he's handled it better than me. Because, I'd be like, hey, dadgummit, I'm the one that's the head coach. I'm the one that's got my feet to the fire. I'm the one that's putting this thing together. And nobody's giving me any credit. Like, I would be that way. I think most of us would. But Sam Pittman just swallowed his pride. It was like, hey, I just want to win. I want us to win. And, if they give credit to Bobby, then so be it. But I feel bad for him, but at the same time, he's making so much money, it's hard. So it's like, I don't know what direction to go, but I really hope that people, because I know I will, I know you will, but if Arkansas has a really good year this year, I just hope people give Sam Pittman the credit that he's due.
I think they will, just ultimately because when you're winning, it's easy to kind of, share that credit. And it's just as easy to share that blame whenever things go south. And so I think, we've been, it's not like we've been over here like the biggest Sam Pittman lovers throughout his entire tenure. Like last year, we all kind of had our uncomfortable conversations about Sam Pittman and the direction of things. And so I feel like it's got to work both ways. If we're all agreeing that if Arkansas goes 4-8, we're going to blame Sam Pittman, if Arkansas goes 8-4, we got to give them a little bit of props, even if obviously, Bobby gets a lot of that credit. But it reminds me, it's like a great value version of Ed Orgeron at LSU, really. You remember when Ed Orgeron first, kind of took over at LSU, and it was a similar situation where a lot of people were like, oh, yeah, we like this guy as the motivator energy guy. Are we sure he's a head coach? And then they assembled this like all-star roster, all-star coaching staff with Dave Aranda and Joe Brady, and everyone kind of gave them that credit. But Ed Orgeron got plenty of money out of the situation. He got plenty of love. He became a national sensation. And so I think all of those things are still going to apply. Think about it. If Arkansas wins 8 games this year, there's going to be so many moments where Sam Pittman has a funny interview where he says cold beer or he does whatever, and he's going to get that national love and recognition. Because I really do feel like Sam is kind of a media darling in a weird way. Like anytime he has success, you just see the entire country kind of get behind him and be like, oh, we love Sam Pittman. It'll definitely be that way if Arkansas has a good year. And so, yeah, I really do feel like we got to be able to do it both ways. And guys, if Arkansas goes 4-8, we'll give Sam Pittman the blame. We're with you. We're not just gonna. It's not gonna be one sided. Like we'll gladly we'll go either direction, whichever way it goes. But we got to agree ahead of time to give credit or blame where it's due.
Yeah, I wanted him fired after last year. I didn't, I guess, call for it in those terms, but I did. It's like this has to change. This has to end. So, but he's here, and I think the Petrino hire was obviously a good idea, and so far, at least through one game, it's been pretty good. But yeah, you got to give a lot of credit to him and everything. And it is weird. I don't know if this will ever be a thing, but man, if you could bring up or have a voting or whatever of the most universally loved head coach of a Power 5 university in the history of college football, I don't know if Sam Pittman's going to get beat by anybody. Like, because Arkansas has no true rival, so there's nobody at the other side that really hates him. He's not done anything for people to hate. In fact, the people that may hate him the most is Arkansas fans.
Definitely Arkansas fans.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. It's weird. Like going to SEC Media Days, every time I did an interview, they always start with, man, well, I just really like Sam Pittman. It's like, man, this is weird. Like, I just don't know. Because even Dave Van Horn, I feel like there's people that in baseball that don't like Dave Van Horn, who has not really done anything to make anyone mad, I guess. But still, yeah, it's weird to see Sam Pittman be as beloved in major college football as he is. But he's a nice guy. He's a good dude. So
he is a nice guy, and he is a good dude. And so, yeah, he's a very easy guy to like. And like, even when and Sam, honestly, like we've been with him long enough here at Arkansas where like, it's almost like that family member where like you can be mad at him, and we'll be mad at him plenty this year. We were mad at him plenty last year, but then he just has a way of luring you back in where he does a press conference and you're like, man, he's a likable guy. And nobody has a wider variance of press conference performances than Sam Pittman, because he had a few. I mean, he's even had a couple this year where it's like he goes to the podium and I'm like, just shut up, just stop talking, stop saying things, Sam. But he has that magic about him. He's a very magnetic personality. And look, I really do genuinely think, like, not to be too dramatic here, but I really do think that his players love him and they love playing for him. And last year they lost a little bit of that, but I do think that, he is one of those guys that players do want to play for him. And all of his former players seem to really have a lot of respect for him. And so I think that kind of stuff matters. And I also really think in terms of the national perspective, the fact that he's not like a dominant head coach helps. Because that's the thing with Dave Van Horn. Of course, people hate him because he's beat their team a lot. He's won a lot of games. He's been in a lot of massive stakes, situations. And so it's easy to kind of just talk yourself into hating a guy that you're in high battles with. But I don't think people are super threatened by Sam Pittman, big picture nationally. And that's part of why I think a lot of people are kind of like, oh, yeah, he's the funny guy.
Yeah, I want to get him back after that Mississippi State win in 2021 when they, in the press conference, when Mississippi State had just all kicking issues out the wazoo.
I knew they were gonna miss it.
Yeah, he's like, I knew they were going to miss it. And he's like, ha ha. He starts laughing and chuckling it up. And I'm like, man, where's that Sam Pittman back? We need him back. But it's always good and fun to laugh when you're going 8-4. It helps.
Shout out to my guy Hazelwood here. Good pal of mine. He says everyone loves Mac Brown. They do now, but I will say when he was at Texas was not necessarily the same thing. He's had a nice little resurgence, PR resurgence here lately. Shout out to Mac Brown, 1-0 by the way. Beat Minnesota by 2, which was the spread.
Which by the way, I hate Minnesota. Just gonna be honest. I think I said this last night. I hate Minnesota. I don't like PJ Fleck. I feel like any coach that just gets like bombarded with like, oh man, this guy's so awesome because I have row the boat. Yeah, he's got sweater vest. Okay, but does he win? No,
No.
he doesn't. So who cares? We'll get to a few more of your chats, folks, here in just a second, but I want to remind everybody that we're brought to you by Alumni Hall here on Inside Arkansas Live, as well as Inside Arkansas in its entirety. And if you're a Razorback fan, you want to have the best apparel when it comes to your Razorback fandom, especially if you're going to be making the trip to Stillwater over there. You want to represent the Hogs. Well, what better way to do it than to have the best apparel from Alumni Hall? They have everything. Peter Millar, Columbia, Nike. They have the stuff that the coaches wear. That, if you want to look like a coach, you want to have the coach's hat and everything, you want to act like you're Sam Pittman for a day, they'll help you out. They got all that stuff too. And they got it for men, they got it for women, they got it for kids, everything. So you got to check them out. They're conveniently located right there in Fayetteville on 3417 North College Avenue. You can also shop them online at alumnihall.com. See all the great apparel that they have and have it delivered straight to your door. But no matter what it is, when it comes to repping the Razorbacks, do it at the ultimate Razorback shopping destination. It's Alumni Hall right there in Fayetteville. All right, so a few other things in the chat. We're getting blown up with some dollar bills over here, man. This is wild, but we appreciate it. This one comes from Coach Gobach. Is that how you would say it, Andrew? Gobach? Sounds right.
Gobach sounds good.
Gobach? Okay. He says, versus Oklahoma State, will the winner of the rush attack come away at the win? Jackson versus Gordon II. Who rushes for more? It's a great question.
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I mean, yeah, I think if Jaquindon Jackson outgains Ollie Gordon, that is a very prominent. Like, if you tell me that ahead of time, it's one of those, like, I'm sure we could be surprised. But if you tell me that going into the game, Arkansas is going to win the rushing battle, I would say probably. And I mean, I was going to ask you, John, of Arkansas. Arkansas threw for 408 yards last night, and they didn't quite run for 300, but they were obviously ran the ball really well, threw the ball really well. Which one are you like more buying into is going to keep being the case moving forward? That Arkansas is going to have this passing attack that really is able to like beat teams down the field? Or do you think like they're going to be able to run the ball consistently? Because I think looking at that run game, I feel like that's something that I could see them doing against actual teams.
Yeah. Honestly, I'll probably go with the rushing attack just because I'm so high on Jaquindon Jackson. Like, because here's the thing, Taylon Green is good, and I'm not taking anything away from him. But is he going to be good against SEC defenses? To be determined. I don't think it matters who Jaquindon Jackson goes up against. He's going to be good against them. Like, I mean, it's not saying he's going to go and rush for 140 yards a game, which would be nice. It'd be great if he did. But I just don't see him having a game where he's got 9 carries for 30 yards. I just don't see that type of game happening from him. So I would say the rushing attack might be a little bit more consistent.
When you think about it, like one of the big questions of the team is the offensive line. That's kind of one of the big things we're all looking for. I feel like when you have an offensive line that's a new look group, it's a little bit easier to run the ball. They like pass protection is kind of the thing you always worry about with the offensive lines. And so I feel like, with Pittman and Mateos particularly, like they're big on having those O-line schemes ready to roll. And I know they had that pitch play working a lot, which I know is like a Mateos specialty. And so I feel like when you have an O-line, like a guy like Marion Harris, who's going to be making his second career start in a massive spot there, like I think it's a little bit easier to take some pressure off them and just run the ball. And this offensive line should be able to do that. And so I think that might end up being what the game comes down to. And I feel like if Arkansas is able to contain Ollie Gordon, Alan Bowman's not necessarily a savant back there at quarterback. And so I think Arkansas would be in a pretty good position.
Oh, yeah. And even if, Taylon Green has a great rushing performance too, which is possible. I mean, there's a lot of options you could have, but yeah, I would lean towards, to answer your question, Coach Gobach, I would lean towards if Arkansas outgains Oklahoma State on the ground as a team, I like Arkansas's chances more. I think that's a good way of putting it. Garrett, also shout out to Garrett, sponsored comment here. He says, are we confident in the front seven to shut down Ollie? I don't see Oklahoma State beating us in the air with sus quarterback play, but I got Hogs winning 31-21. Hashtag T-Will for real.
Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma State's got most of their offensive line back as well, so there's a lot of continuity there. I mean, Ollie Gordon obviously was one of the most dynamic backs in the entire country. So, I mean, Arkansas is going to have their hands full. Arkansas gave up 7 rushing yards yesterday. 7. Anytime you can count your rushing yards with your fingers, that's pretty impressive. And so, it's going to be one of those things where all offseason we were like, hey, does Arkansas have answers in the front seven? D-line linebacker. That's kind of our big concern. Now after week 1, it's like, does Arkansas have the best linebacker room in the country? Like, how about that? It's kind of crazy how much it's flipped, but man, like if you would have asked me this question in July, I would have been like, no, Arkansas is not going to be able to slow down Ollie Gordon. Of course they're not. They're not going to have answers. And I'm not saying they have answers now, but I'm a lot more confident going into this matchup thinking that, hey, Arkansas might not just roll over and get dominated at the line of scrimmage there up front defensively. But, I do think it's going to be a little bit easier said than done. So don't be too stunned if it flips the other way.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I still need to see a little bit more, but it is crazy when you put those numbers in perspective because Arkansas gave up 7 rushing yards last night and they scored 8 rushing touchdowns. So you had more rushing touchdowns than you gave up rushing yards from UAPB. It's usually a good recipe for success. But I don't know. I mean, I'm with you. I'm more confident. I'm more confident now. Not saying that they're going to hold them in check, but I'm also not going to predict that always going to run wild and average 8 yards a carry either.
Yeah.
Like, I think that it's going to be another key matchup in this. Also, another sponsored comment from Wonder Bread said, love the new look without the weird guy in the middle. Keep up the good work, winky face. So
we have an actual Curtis hater.
I guess so. Either that or he's just like being sarcastic and with the winky face, like that's his sarcastic font. And I don't know.
I guess he is also giving us money, so it must be sarcastic. I feel like Wonder Bread was an avid chat user back in the day. I feel like I haven't seen him in a while, but Wonder Bread, nice to see you.
Yeah. Good to see you, man, and good to have you back in there. Man, we're really killing it with these sponsored comments here. Ty Humphreys comes in. He's like, no questions here, but Hogs win 7-8 this season, calling it upset LSU, A&M, and Mizzou. Start season 5-0. Call me crazy. Go ahead. There we go. There's the Kool-Aid right there that we've been looking for. Let's do it.
Man,
sure.
Needs to win 70-0 more often because today we're crushing it, dude.
Man, I'm telling you, like, and here's the thing. First off, it really shows last night how playing on ESPNU on a Thursday night where there's not many other games going on can really highlight you. Because I was like watching SVP and he was playing highlights from the Arkansas UAPB game. He's not doing that on a Saturday. And he's not doing that. So I think that also helped is that people have been, if you've watched SportsCenter or the SEC Network or been on social media and stuff, you just see nothing but highlights and all this positive talks. Everyone's like, oh, you know what, man, if they're talking about us, we might be pretty good. So I think that's a big part of it. But I love it, Ty. I hope that happens for you. I really do. I hope that happens. And also shout out to David. He says, I just bought 2 BMFP tees from the shop. Woo Pig. Yeah, that's right, folks. Appreciate you, David. Thanks for your purchases. Yeah, on our social media, if you want to check it out, we put out a link for BMFP shirts. And I got to make sure I word this right. It's the official color of the team that you root for the most. It's that official color.
You can't be any more specific than that. Like
I literally cannot. The team last night that won here in the state of Arkansas in a college football game, that color. It's that official color. So just to let you know. But yeah, check that out. Appreciate you, David. And yeah, after last night, I was like, oh man, these BMFP shirts may be going like hotcakes after a performance like that.
Dude, I love the shirt because it's just so simple and just right to the point. And it's one of those, like, when you see it, we all know what it is. And it's like, it's going to be one of those, like, it's almost like an inside joke where it's like, hey, that guy knows ball. He knows BMFP.
Yep. He's one of the OGs, the one that's been around forever. So, yeah, all for it. But a few other things here in the chat because I know we'll talk a little bit about college football this weekend. And I also want to bring up something about Bobby Petrino, too. Jackson said, any news on the stolen bus? No, I have not got any updates on that.
Dude, that's nuts.
Yeah, like, it never ceases to amaze me, man. It never fails. Just always something, I tell you. Young Mitch says, our defense didn't force a turnover. Does that concern y'all?
It doesn't, because I feel like, and I said this a couple days ago on one of the shows we were doing, I feel like turnovers are almost like a arbitrary, like, luck of the draw type of thing. Like, I feel like they're not a like reliable metric. So it's like, I always feel like that's a red flag if you have a team like, oh, their defense is really good. They forced 20-something turnovers. It's like, are they going to keep forcing turnovers? Are they going to keep getting fumbles to fall on the ground? Like, I would have liked to see them force a couple for sure. And I definitely thought they would, but I think it's just kind of the way the game played out, and it became a shortened game real quick. And so UAPB didn't really force the issue. They didn't throw the ball downfield a ton. And so, I mean, not super. It's definitely not concerning. I mean, I think it's just one of those things. It's just kind of how the game played out. Because on the flip side, Arkansas didn't turn the ball over. I think it was more just like the low stress nature of the game.
Yeah, I'm not concerned at all about that. I mean, yeah, would you have liked to seen turnovers? Of course, but let me put it this way. Actually, maybe you'll disagree, Andrew. I would rather see 3 and outs constantly from a defense than a few more turnovers, but giving up a few more yards or whatever. Just because turnovers, yes, sometimes it's a lot of just great plays, but sometimes it's just freak accidents. Like a running back gets hit a certain way. Like people forget, Jagonin Jackson fumbled the first time he touched the ball yesterday. Luckily, he sucks. Luckily, the ball went out of bounds, but it's like those things happen. Or a tip pass that gets intercepted. There's just so many things that happen for like weirdly in turnovers. But 3 and outs, there's nothing weird about that. That's in case maybe the offense just is stupid and calling terrible plays. But most of the time, it's just because your defense is really playing good with good matchups and everything. So give me 3 and outs all day long. Because to me, that's also when you have a guy like Satania back there, who knows what could happen, but it could turn into something. But yeah, give me those 3 and outs a lot more. I'll take those.
Yeah, it almost makes the defensive performance, I mean, again, still UAPB, but it almost makes it more impressive that they hardly crossed midfield. They hardly got anything going, and there wasn't a bunch of turnovers. And I also feel like it's like a law of averages type of thing, where it's like in basketball, if your opponent one game goes 3 for 24 from 3-point line, well, your next opponent's probably going to hit 8 or 9 threes. It's like you just kind of know it's just going to play out that way. And so I'm all for Arkansas saving their turnovers for Oklahoma State.
Yes, yeah. Save all those. Keep those in the chamber for that. Also, Ty, another sponsor comment here from Ty. Appreciate you, Ty. He says something folks aren't considering. Firing Sam Pittman loses all incredible coaches we have on staff. T. Will is a dog. BMFP. He's a wizard. Next message with more. Oh, okay. So I guess there's only a certain amount that you can do.
But then he followed and said that he couldn't. They wouldn't let him do a second super chat.
Oh man, that's lame. YouTube, Google, what are you doing over here?
Quit preventing our money from coming in, YouTube.
Quit preventing people from giving us money, you jerks. What is this, communist Russia? Yeah. He says the only bad hires were Enos and offensive line coach Cody Kennedy last year. That just wasn't ready. I don't know if those were the only bad hires, because some of those D-line hires that he made in the early going were pretty rough. But I think, there's a good balance, because I think Marcus Woodson's been a great hire. I think, Travis Williams so far has looked to be a great hire. I think always name Morgan, is that his name? The tight end coach?
Yeah, Morgan Turner.
Morgan Turner, thank you. Yeah, I think he's been solid. But then, the Petrino hire, I think the Kendall Briles and Barry Odom hire in the beginning were phenomenal. So,
yeah. He's got a large sample size of coach hiring. For the most part, it's been pretty good. Now, obviously, you got to acknowledge the Danny Enos hire could not have been a worse hire. It's about as bad. It went as poorly as it could go. But even the Cody Kennedy hire, like if you look at his tenure overall, it's not like it was a just complete disaster. Like they had really good O-lines those first couple of years, and it kind of made sense. But yeah, I think it was time. I think it kind of ran its course and played out the way it needed to play out, where they needed to make a change, and it worked out. But yeah, I mean, Deke Adams is a hire that we all kind of shook our heads at a little bit. Yeah, you see Clint here saying it's an underrated hire. Yeah, we all kind of were like, I don't know about that. He's turned out to be pretty solid. Travis Williams turned out to be a really good hire. Kendall Briles by Petrino. Yeah, I think overall, when you look at it, Pittman's done pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Scott Fountain's the only one that's been there the whole time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's turned out to be a good hire too.
No, don't say that. You're going to get everybody mad.
People don't like that. But yeah, I mean, I'll eat my crow. I definitely was like, I thought Scott Fountain was lying on his resume.
I did too. Especially when I found out, which it's not just about this, but when I found out he's like making like $500,000 a year. I'm like, what? The special teams coach, and all he's got to do is just watch. Like he just goes over there kicking and kickoff. It should be very easy. But yeah, that was pretty rough. Okay, I want to bring up this because this is something I want to discuss. It's going to take it into another step of something that really, really bothered me and has been bothering me. Wade's over here. So Wade comes in. He's saying Clint Sterner fully believes Singleton should be the starter, and I think he's referring to when Clint Sterner went on 103.7 The Buzz here in Little Rock. I was actually listening to that interview. First off, I'm not trying to disrespect Clint or anything. He played SEC football.
You could argue.
Yeah, you could argue. But I don't agree with this take after the one game at UAPB. Come on. Like, and I'm not trashing Singleton. Like, I'm not trashing anybody, but I'm like, you gotta look at this in reality, folks. Like, it's so much easier to be a backup quarterback coming into a game when you're up 49-0. You know, like going into that situation is a completely different ball game. And I just don't believe that should ever be something to where a game like UAPB, there's a lot you can take from it. There's a lot you cannot take from it. And one of the things I don't think you can take from it is be like, oh, well, the backup quarterback came in garbage time and went 8 of 10, and he should be the starter based on that, even though the other guy's literally been the starter since he stepped on campus. That's just, I think that's just it's an overreactionary take by Sterner. I just don't understand why that would be even a thing right now.
I mean, and look, it would be one thing if we had spent all off season and it had been like a thing, like a back and forth battle of who's going to be the guy, who's going to be whatever. It hasn't been. And Malachi Singleton I've been very impressed with Malachi Singleton, like dating back to the spring. I thought he looked awesome last night. Like we've been kind of buying everything we've been hearing about Malachi Singleton, but I'm not going to like jump to a conclusion and be like, hey, actually, they need to start the guy who has never played against an FBS team over. It's like, I don't know. I'm not there yet. Will we get there? I'm not even saying it can't get to that point, but I need to see Talon like actually struggle against SEC teams and like really like hold the offense back. Considering that the offense has not been held out of the end zone once, I feel like I'm just gonna wait and see a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Now is the time to be making a change or anything like that. And yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it reeks of like the guy who just watched one thing. Like, I remember after baseball season, this happens all the time. Last year, I remember Ty Wilmsmeyer had an awesome opening weekend. And it's like, why don't we hit this dude leadoff? Why don't we hit Ty? I mean, in my opinion, he went 3 for 4. So, I mean, yeah, just throw him leadoff. It's like, okay. People thought Michael Turner sucked after one weekend. It's like, I don't know, man. I feel like you got to let the sample size grow a little bit. And I look, Talon, we've talked about Talon more than like any human being ever. We've talked and we have our questions and our concerns. We're not like saying this dude's like a star, but yeah, let's let this sucker play out just a little bit before we say, hey, let's bench the redshirt junior for the redshirt freshman.
Yeah, like if he goes into Oklahoma State and Arkansas loses and his stat line is like 8 for 25 with 4 interceptions, then okay, maybe then we could say, is this guy going to be it? And if he can't do this against Oklahoma State, yeah. But until then, again, he completed 70% of his passes and he had 2 touchdowns, and yeah, he missed a couple throws here and there. But I don't think anyone should expect any quarterback to make every throw perfectly. Let's just, like you said, let it play out for just a little bit. But what also, this kind of brings it up, and I'm not calling out anybody specific, but this kind of made me think about this because I understand, especially us being in the media, and Andrew, I know you've been in the media for a while too. Like, we all have opinions that we have and we throw them out there, and we're wrong a lot. I know it's shocking, but we are wrong. Sometimes it does happen. And it has been incredible that when Bobby Petrino had happened originally at Arkansas and he got in his motorcycle accident, and that entire time he was away, and when the team would struggle or whatever, I remember people on call-in radio shows would be like, hey, just bring Bobby back. We miss Bobby. And there were so many media people and personalities or whoever that would just be like hating Petrino. Guy's a snake, terrible human being, not a leader of men. He ruins your. He's the reason why you can blame Jeff Long and Brett Bielema. He's the reason why your football program's gone in the toilet. Like, just destroying him and hating on him. And it is amazing how as soon as Bobby Petrino comes back, man, I love seeing them. I love seeing them on the sidelines, just seeing those plays. It's been great seeing them smile with the players. I just love that. That really gets me. It just hits me right here, and it's good to see. It's good to see. I just hate that so much because I know I'm not, like, I say a bunch of random crap that's wrong all the time, and I have fun with it. But the one thing I do pride myself is I'm one of the people that even when he got on the motorcycle wreck and all that, I still think they shouldn't have fired him, and I love the man, and I still have to this day. But it is just amazing how once it comes full circle and the guy's now back in the staff, everyone's like, oh, he's great. Isn't it great to see him back? It's just really bothers me. It really bothers me. And there's been a lot of that going on here recently.
I think you're one of the very few people who's like qualified to be bothered by this, because for as long as I've known you, we always talk about Petrino. Like literally, like
Yes.
when we first really started, like 2-3 years ago, felt like every third conversation somehow would circle back to Petrino, and you're like, well, I tell you, Bobby Petrino's the man. You always love Petrino, which, like, I mean, of course, a lot of people, we all love Petrino back in the day, of course. But you have been kind of tooting that horn even for a while, that you were like, man, I think everything, you've always been kind of like waiting for this to happen. Whereas myself included, a lot of us kind of gave up hope of anything like this ever happening. And, I've even been one of those people who's like poked holes in it looking back and been like, the Petrino thing was probably going to flame out at some point anyway. And I think it kind of just worked out perfectly, where this situation I wouldn't have predicted, but it's perfect the way it's worked out. But yeah, I've definitely noticed a little bit of that, where people who haven't been the biggest Petrino fans in the world are all of a sudden like buying the BMFP shirt.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, I don't like Brett Bielema, and I know some people do, and that's fine. I don't like Brett Bielema. I feel like what he did at Arkansas is he took a program that a lot of people cared about, got lazy, got complacent, and just mailed it in and didn't care as much. That's how I took it. If he became back as a coach, I'm not going to change. Like, man, you know what? It's good seeing Bielema back on the sidelines. Like, no, I'm going to be like, I don't like
Jim Bielema.
Yeah, it depends on who comes with them, and who's part of it. But yeah, it's just that bothers me, where you just change your tune as quickly as possible. When I see like people interviewing Petrino or asking questions of Petrino, I'm like, this is the person that hated that guy, hated him, and all of that. So it just bothers me. That's all. All right, I'm off of that.
I love this comment here from Clint, because I'm going to be honest with you, I feel a little bit the same way.
Yeah.
Where I was, for context, like I'm trying to think. 2012, I was a freshman in high school. So that was like my peak Arkansas like fandom, frankly, like when I was the most emotionally invested. So there were years there where I was like legitimately, I was like F Bobby Petrino. Like, I hate that guy. He completely ruined my life. Like, he ruined my favorite thing. I really had a lot of vitriol towards him, but I feel like the way he's handled everything since then, about as good as you can. And he kind of just ate it. He was like, all right, I made a huge mistake. It was horrible. He came back and apologized. He's been pretty he's laid low. He hasn't been like a weird, saying crazy stuff of, oh, actually Arkansas did this and Arkansas did that. He never said a bad word about Arkansas. Like cause I looked for it. I was kind of keeping my eye out, where I was like, if he ever tries to blame Arkansas, I'm going to be mad at him. He never did that. And so he won me over the years, frankly, and kind of like made it possible for me to be like, all right, yeah, excited about this whole thing. And so I agree with Clint, man. Like when he when he came back to what year was that? When he spoke at the Touchdown Club? Was that 2022?
No, that was further back than that. That was before COVID when he did that. I'm pretty sure. Or maybe
I remember him like saying, apologizing, saying all that he did, and really just owning up to it and not making any excuses, not pointing fingers, and just saying how much he still cheers for Arkansas and all that.
Yep.
So yeah, I really, he kind of won me over too. And I feel like, I don't think he's like this like vicious guy. I think I think he's an intense guy, and I wouldn't say he's like a pocket full of sunshine, but I don't think Bobby Petrino is like a bad guy by any means. And so, he's it's been a nice little story to watch play out.
Yeah, I feel like there's people out there that want to be seen being a certain way. Like, Petrino doesn't care about social media. He doesn't care about like being seen a certain thing. And that's where it's kind of like I let him. Yeah, he's been known as being a jerk and a really intense guy and everything. But I feel like some coaches who are known for that want to do it for attention or want to do it because you want to be known for that. And but that's just how Bobby is. And he demands a certain thing, but it works and it's been successful. So yeah, when he came back to the Touchdown Club, also seeing him like cry, because you think he's just like a robot, the entire time. You just thought he was just this one, this is how it is. But him coming back and getting emotional, he still gets emotional. I mean, he got emotional when he got hired again. Then he got emotional at the beginning of fall camp when he got brought up. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of reasons, and forgiveness goes a long way. But yeah, that's a great comment, Bobby, from there. Also, a shout out to your boy Hazelwood over here dropping the orange comment, not the orange sponsored comment over here. He just says, just love the vibe, fellas. Go buy a couple on me. When I go undefeated on all my bets this weekend, we're going to the Sizzler. All right. Yes.
Hazelwood's a good dude, man. He's become one of my best pals, and he bought me lunch the other day, and now he's doing this, and so I feel like I owe him big time. I need to come up with some type of gesture for him.
Yeah, you need to find some sort of way too, especially him talking about the Sizzler. Is there even a Sizzler around anymore? Does that still exist? I don't even know.
I'm going to Arkadelphia this weekend, so maybe I'll go to Western Sizzling down there.
Dude. Okay, so it's not the same. The Sizzler and the Western Sizzling is different, right?
Not the same thing, but that was just the one thing that went to my brain where I was like,
okay,
I might have to go to Western Sizzling this weekend.
No, I'm glad you brought it up.
Sizzler.
Yeah, because as a kid, whenever I heard reference to the Sizzler, I thought of Western Sizzling every time.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happened with me right here.
Yeah, because that's just I was like, there's no way that there's two restaurants that are like buffet style where all the old people go that are that close to being named the same thing. So, oh man, what'd you think about Wonder Bread? Out here saying Scott Fountain is the Nate Thompson of football. Ooh.
It's not a horrible comparison, only because it's like I get all the hate, but also if you just kind of look at what's happened, it's hard to be like, yeah, we should fire this guy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, like it's like one of those things where it's like I'm not a huge like, oh, I love Nate Thompson guy. I'm not a huge I love Scott Fountain guy. I've had my critiques of both, but when people are like, it's unacceptable that they have a job, I'm like, really? Are we going there?
Yeah. There's a certain level that you can get to of like, going from being just not a right fit or not to the level that he's supposed to be, or just being, he's trash coat. Like just why is he even employed?
I think I would, I'm about to say something crazy here. I would argue Scott Fountain has done better at his job the last few years than Nate Thompson.
I'd agree with you, actually.
Now, his job description is a little bit more defined, where Nate does recruiting and stuff like that. And Arkansas's had some good recruiting classes, so you got to give him some props there. But just overall, special teams and hitting, I feel like given the context of the situations they're both in, Scott Fountain done a pretty good job.
Yep. I think all things considered, I'd agree with you. I'd absolutely agree with you, too. Garrett comes in and says, love seeing both coordinators on the sidelines last night. Both of those are high energy guys, and the sideline might be a huge difference maker on the team, especially with the two guys that we have there. Is Bobby a high energy guy? I know T Will is. I don't know if I'd consider Bobby a high energy guy.
Yeah, I don't know about all that, but no, yeah, I mean, I do like seeing them both on the sideline, and actually for that reason of like, Travis Williams is kind of the young, energetic guy, and he's exactly what that defense needs. And I think Bobby is the kind of meticulous savant that the offensive guys need on the sideline there. I feel like they both bring what their group needs. So yeah, it is cool. Frankly, like I think people really love the press box versus sideline thing. I really think offensive coordinators should be on the sidelines. Like I get, you want to have the aerial view and all that, but it's like, dude, you got the iPads now. You can see whatever you need to see. And it's like, you need that, like Petrino said, I like to see my quarterback's eyes on the sideline. Kind of know what's going on. I like whenever they're on the sideline.
But the thing is, quarterback can't see Petrino's eyes because he's got those sunglasses on now, dude. Like it was cracking me up because we're trying to find Bobby in the stands. We were on the opposite side of the home team, and we were looking. I was like, he's got the sunglasses on. It was like dark outside though, and I know he's wearing glasses, but then he puts on the sunglasses sometimes. So it's like, man, what a new guy out there. I don't know. I know we won't get a chance to ask him because he's shut down pretty much for the rest of the year. But I wanted to find out who was there.
A+ comment.
Wait, this Fountain has his guys launch angles down, ball sail out of the end zone every time. It's true.
Yeah. Scott Fountain has he's an expert launch angle. We'll see if Arkansas baseball can figure it out this year.
Yeah, that's a +1 comment, my man. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Oh, I remember when +1 was such a fun thing to say back in the day.
Message boards, right?
Yeah, my brother, like when I was a kid, my brother used to say that to me when I'd say something positive. He'd be like, "Hey, +1," and I was like, "Oh, cool."
Yeah, we should bring it back because I just did. I don't know why I referenced +1 because I don't even get on message boards anymore, but it's there. Yeah. All right, we'll get some more of your chats. Appreciate you all. Appreciate everybody donating to the cause as well. But we'll go ahead and get into your Arkansas update presented by Davis and Garrett Insurance, your independent auto owners insurance agency. Securing what matters the most. Go see my boy Clayton over there. He'll get you all set up for all the insurance needs you possibly could ever need or want. But I wanted to bring this up, Andrew, because I know you referenced this and talking about the Pro Football Focus grades for offense and defense last night for Arkansas, and a few surprises in there, it looks like.
So, okay, Taylon Green, the highest graded player on Arkansas's team, or offensively, 91.5 overall grade. His rushing grade was weirdly enough, his passing was 84.7 and his rushing was 84.8, which like you expected the rushing to be pretty high. I would have thought they would have knocked him a little bit for the throwing a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I thought that was interesting to see. I don't think people would have came away saying he was the number one guy. Shout out Shamar Easter, got his 4 snaps in there. All offensive linemen for Arkansas over 70, which I thought was an encouraging sign. How about Caleb James? We all projected him to be the leading defensive player for Arkansas. He played 7 snaps and logged an 87.4 grade. Love that. I was a little surprised. D-line heavily graded very highly. So if you're, had questions about the Arkansas D-line, the PFF grades will make you feel better. The top 6 for Arkansas defensively, I mean, you got James, Rhodes, Junkaj, Davier, Gregory, Jaffrard. And that doesn't even include Landon Jackson, who's the best one. And Kiwi Rose also, who I thought played pretty well. They had him and Landon Jackson at 66.9 and 65.9. And so, look, PFF grades are a little bit of a weird thing. And especially when it's a small sample size of guys only playing 5 or 6 snaps and all that, you get some weird stuff. And I don't think we should live and die by this, but there were a few surprises there. The Arkansas secondary did not grade out super well. Frankly, as a team, Arkansas's coverage grade was 58.0, which is just below average, which I thought was notable. And Arkansas's tackling grade 49.3. Not great tackling, they're saying. But I think there was a lot of times where Arkansas would the first guy would miss the tackle, and then there would be 3 guys right there to make the tackle. So I'm not going to freak out too much about that. But overall, I feel like about what you would expect. And there were so many guys that played. I think Pittman said they played 82 guys or something like that. And so a lot to evaluate. But yeah, I thought it was quite interesting.
Yeah, like you mentioned the secondary, which I know that didn't expect him to be high on the list, but Nico Slaughter down there under Dylan Haas, what in the? When I saw Slaughter out there, it's not like I was watching him every play, but I didn't feel like he was, that. But I guess, hey, listen, Pro Football Focus, they got their own thing out there making it work.
So I used to have a buddy who worked for PFF, and he was one of their guys that would do charts and do stuff like that. And he kind of filled me in on some of the process. So for those that don't know, they always start at 60. So Dylan Haas, I think is 60.0. I don't know how many snaps he played. That means he pretty much did nothing for them to evaluate. And so he just stayed at 60. Gotcha. But with coverage grades in particular, they're about as the most flawed that they have, because they only can do it when you're targeted. If you Jalen Braxton over there just locking up his guy, if he's not targeted, they don't really grade those. My friend has admitted this to me, that PFF doesn't grade them if they're not targeted. And so for Danico Slaughter, I think it comes down to that one play where the guy got behind him and the quarterback overthrew him. And I think they started that play as a negative play for Danico Slaughter. But yeah, I was a little bit surprised by the coverage grades being a little shaky there. But overall, nothing crazy.
Yeah, I didn't see anything that was just mind blowing, other than I don't know, just it makes me laugh because I'm going to be 100% honest. I forgot Shamar Easter was on the team. I'm just going to be honest. And I want to say, because I, for some reason, continue to get him mixed up with Shamar Nash, who used to be on the team years ago. Because I don't know many people named Shamar, and Arkansas had 2 of them. And I guess Easter's a tight end, and I think Nash was a wide receiver, but still. Yeah. I mean, that's Pro Football Focus is also the same group that had Anton Junkaj as the best defensive lineman in the SEC or whatever when going into the year grading out. So
Pro Football Focus, they love him. Well, and frankly, I came away from last night being Junkaj, kind of would have liked to see a little bit more from him. They credited him with 4 quarterback pressures, which is a pretty solid. That's a good number. That actually led Arkansas's team, I believe. And I mean, 4 in a game, that's notable. And yeah, he graded out really well. So I mean, yeah, good to see that, I guess. Maybe a little bit surprising just based on what I saw, because I felt like Jaffrard and Junkaj, I kind of wanted to see a little bit more. I wanted to see them back there a little bit more, but Pro Football Focus gave them their solid grades. I feel like there was one other one that was weird. Oh, they weren't super high on the linebackers. They had all the linebackers low, and I think that tackling grade was docked by the linebackers, which again, I'm not going to freak out about. I know one in particular, Sorry, missed a tackle, but again, there was 5 dudes right there. They were all kind of there. And so sometimes it's a little bit weird. We're not going to freak out too much, but yeah, PFF, it's nice to have little things to observe, because it always is a little bit more surprising than I expect.
Yes. Yeah. Every single time I look at it, you always think you have an idea or a good idea. I was like, oh, this guy was probably going to grade out the highest, and ends up not even being the case.
I would have said that Taylon Green would have probably been in the 60-70 range. Like,
Yeah.
I really thought they were going to knock him a good bit because I know turnover-worthy throws are a big thing for PFF. Like, if you throw a pass that should have been picked off, they knock you pretty bad for it. So I would have thought that opening play of the game, and he threw another one into traffic a little bit. I thought that would have knocked him a little bit, but they had him with a few, as they call, big-time throws as well, which is as cool as it sounds. But I feel bad for Shamar Easter because I didn't reference him last night when Curtis and I did our player grades, our like report cards. We talked about the tight ends, and I didn't reference Shamar Easter, who made his first career reception not too far away from his hometown of Ashdown. So good for him.
Right. That's right. And also, people like Wade. Is this true? Is like he said, Jaffard is Jaffard?
Yeah, I think Jaffard. I think that's what we're going with.
Yeah, I know. Because every time I say, I feel like I'm saying Jafar from like the movie Aladdin. But yeah, like it's Jafar is an absolute monster. Yes, he's a large human being. Doesn't lack size on the defensive line.
Those are the guys you want on the defensive line, where you don't have to explain, oh, yeah, this guy's he's got a you just look at him and you're like, oh, yeah, that guy plays D-line. Yeah, I could see him playing tackle in the SEC. Yeah, I really I think Arkansas's had some nice pickups on the D-line, linebacker, in their recruiting classes the last couple of years. And so it's good to see some of those guys kind of making their way to the top.
Arkansas also says that Junkaj looks slow to him.
I don't disagree terribly, honestly. Like, because I didn't think he was bad, but last night I thought he was just kind of out there, which is like Curtis said, that's kind of how we felt about him in the spring, where it was like, oh, he's there, and yeah, you see him, but I don't know if he necessarily flashed. But PFF appears to disagree with us.
Yeah, apparently so. Also, I love this from Kingsley. He says, "There's Shamar Moore of the Young and the Restless fame." I didn't know that, so there's another Shamar.
Boy, is Shamar Moore, am I tripping? Is Shamar Moore the Into the Spider-Verse, which you had the poster behind you yesterday?
Yeah, that was totally mine. No, I did not. Somebody else brought that up to me. They're like, "Oh, you're a big fan of that?" And I was like, "I know, it was just in the room that I was at."
Wearing a Spider-Man shirt yesterday, and I forgot to acknowledge it that you were sitting behind the poster. Tremendous move, by the way.
Yeah. Now you're wearing a Superman spot, so you're all about the superheroes this weekend. Yeah. Well, somebody asked me. I was trying to find here in the chat because they were asking about my shirt, because I found a few of this about this this locked in shirt because it's a baseball shirt. At least I hope it is, because it's got a home plate, with the logo. So I assume it's probably a baseball shirt. But no, I got this from like one of those resale shops. Just found it. I was like, that's kind of cool. So I don't know where you can get it, folks. I don't even know how old this shirt could be from like 2017. I have no idea. So I don't know where you can get it.
You remember when Nike used to love having the shirts that like said things like,
yes,
like they would have like little catchphrases on them.
Yeah.
I'm glad we've moved away from that, but that's a good version where it's like not a sentence. It's just locked in, especially because like I feel like locked in is like that's a huge term in the streets with the kids these days.
Yeah. Well, what was it? I think the one that all in was maybe the one that
it was Arkansas basketball that had that.
I think
because you know what that shirt looks like, John? It looks like the shirts that the basketball team would wear, like a long sleeve version of it, like shooting jerseys, like at the NCAA tournament. Like I feel like they always have like a new shirt that everyone's wearing during warmups, and it's like says something. Like I feel like that's what that shirt kind of reminds me of.
Yeah, I could see that. Well, speaking of those phrases, I remember someone had like the phrases that were on there. I remember there was one that was like "bet against us." There was one that was like the one I think was most ridiculous one. As I remember, "stack the deck." I'm like, okay, like what? I guess sure, whatever that is. But yeah, I'm glad that they got rid of those, and not everything needs a catchphrase.
I used to have a shirt that was Nike, and it said, "If that's your A game, I sure hope you brought the rest of the alphabet with you." When I was like 11, I used to wear it so much.
That's such a long sentence to like be on a shirt.
Well, the A was very big, and it was like, "If that's your A game," and then it was like very small writing.
Oh man, see, I wish I still had some of the old like Arkansas Razorback shirts in the 90s that I had. Like I remember there was one. It's like it said all teams are created equal in the front, and then in the back it said, "Yeah, right." It's like, oh man, because it was like Arkansas, and it was like, yeah,
Said no one ever.
Yeah, it's like that, and then it was like the good, better, best, and it was like the good was LSU, the better was it may have been like Kentucky or something because it was a basketball shirt, and the best was Arkansas.
Oh, well, when people used to do the good, the bad, the ugly too.
Yes,
those shirts were really popping in the streets.
Man, yeah, bring those back. Maybe we'll start doing that with our apparel line and just start bringing back
random sentences thrown together.
Yep, and they'll be like, oh man, that fits me. That speaks to me for that. Listen, if you
just have a shirt that just says wheel route.
Probably sell like crazy. Just wheel route.
Petrino to draw it up for us too, like the full thing, and we'll just have it just wheel route.
Yep, just wheel route. Or like, you just text Ronnie Wingo, but hey man, like if we give you $1 for every shirt that we sell of you, like your picture on this, yeah, it's fine. Let's do that. Like, so many things we could do.
We don't talk to Ronnie because he couldn't get his brother to go to Arkansas.
I feel like didn't he have like 2 or 3 brothers that were good, like really good coming out of high school, and none of them went here?
We ain't seen none of them here in Fayetteville, so
no.
Maybe it was a family. We're out.
Yeah, maybe it's a cousin or something like that. I don't know, but I just remember that one person I am trying to get in touch with to do an interview because I just like talk to him because you never have heard anything from him. Is Dennis Johnson? Like,
yeah.
I never heard a peep. I don't even know if he's on social media. So
considering how big of a fan favorite he was, you would have thought that he would be like a guy that we see around and all that. And we got DJ Williams.
yes. Trade one for the other. But yes,
we got the lesser end of the DJ package.
Yes, even though it's funny you say that because then the other one like won a Mackey Award, and like other ones.
I just meant from a personality standpoint.
Right.
DJ Williams, tremendous football player.
Yeah, but it was Dennis Johnson. And he's from Arkansas. He's from Texarkana in the Arkansas side. So I was like, he's even an Arkansas guy. I don't know. If anybody knows what he's up to, let us know. Because I guess that was like when someone asked us, where's Rohan Gaines? Now we're asking y'all, what's Dennis Johnson up to?
Either Dennis Johnson or Rohan Gaines. We got to get one of them on the pod.
Yep. Got to make that happen. All right. College football this weekend, though. I know we've talked a lot of Arkansas, and rightfully so. But listen, week 1, I know week 0 had a couple games, whatever. Week 1 is where it really gets pretty fun. You'll have some really iconic and legendary matchups. In fact, to say that you get one right off the bat at 11 a.m. Central Time on Saturday, tomorrow, Clemson and Georgia. How about that? The number 1 team in the country facing off against the Clemson team that maybe is not as good as what they were, but still number 14 in the country. This is without a doubt, I think, the game of the week, or at least the game that most people are going to have their eyes on.
Yeah, and I like that it's at 11 a.m. Like, waste no time. We're just right into it. The spread is at 11.5 for Georgia, and it's kind of come down a little bit. Like, I think it started over 13, like 13.5, and it's now down to 11.5. I think Georgia might roll them. I think they might just sit on them, a good little like 31-13 type of thing. I really think that's in play here. Also at 11 a.m., you've got Penn State, a top 10 Penn State team going to West Virginia. And West Virginia is just one of those teams and programs where no one ever knows what to expect. They are the full spectrum of like, they could be 3-9, 9-3, like, and I feel like especially at West Virginia, that's like a sneaky fun game that like is kind of going under the radar a little bit.
Yeah,
Miami and Florida playing as well. We've talked about that a lot. Like that's a game that's going to have a lot of stakes, just a lot of tension in it. Obviously, you got the rivalry there and all of that. Notre Dame, Texas A&M, I feel like I think that's a night game. That's going to be a fun one where like I don't think we really know what to make of A&M, but I'm sure there's going to be plenty of Hog fans watching that one and kind of taking notes of like, oh, we got that one.
Let me ask you this. I know it's in College Station, but with a new head coach and a top 10 team coming in, seeing Texas A&M favored by 3 points is kind of weird to me. I know, like, because that gives you the home field advantage, so maybe it's a pick 'em, but what are people basing this on with A&M and seeing their top 20 team? I don't know. I just feel like that's a bold move for the first game of the season with a brand new coach.
Yeah, it seems like one of those where like Vegas doesn't know what to do with it either. Because I feel like typically, like if you think the teams are even, home team by 3 makes sense. And I don't think like Vegas knows. Like they're like, do we put that much? Because I don't know how Notre Dame's been interesting because the year 1 Marcus Woodson, they faced a lot of growing pains. They were better last year. are they going to just take that natural next step and be a legit top 15, like maybe playoff contender type of team? I mean, Notre Dame, it's not that hard to imagine Notre Dame being in that echelon. A&M, you could talk me into just about anything with them. I mean, they always have such a talented roster. They're always loaded. So it's like they went 9-3 and were that type of team. I wouldn't be surprised, but I also wouldn't be surprised if there were some growing pains in year one under Elko. What's interesting about that game, John? The Notre Dame quarterback is Riley Leonard, who transferred from Duke. And Mike Elko coached him at Duke. And he's a huge defensive guru. I wonder if you're getting a little bit of magic there where like Elko knows the secret to shutting down. He knows his limitations. He knows what to do against that quarterback. And I mean, you're going to have what used to be the number one ranked college football 25 stadium pulse meter. They did you see that? They got demoted.
Good.
They bumped up LSU to number one, and they moved A&M down to like 8 or 9.
And it just makes me mad because I'm like, no, what changed? Like, you're just like, would you get so much hate that you're like, oh, guys, maybe we need to change this? Like, it's so dumb. But going back. By the way, real quick, going back to West Virginia thing, I feel like West Virginia belongs in the SEC. I want to see them in the SEC. I feel like Morgantown gets pretty trashy drunk, and I'm respect that.
They burn couches there, don't they? Is that the place where, like, when they win a big game, they just like parade the streets and they burn couches?
I think so. I think there's a lot of teams that burn couches. I don't know why couches became the thing to do, but
I just imagine going home to your wife and being like, "Babe, we were deciding amongst the guys, and we're the couch we're burning. So be on the lookout for a new couch because we're burning this sucker." Like, how do you make that decision of whose couch is being burned?
Yeah. It's like, sorry, hun. It's our time this time. We got to run to Hank's Furniture tomorrow. Got to buy this new couch once we burn this one up. And
or maybe you just have people. I mean, now that I think about it, I feel like everybody knows at least one guy who just has a couch in their garage that they're not using, that they're just like trying to get rid of, and there's like piss stains on it. They can't sell it, and they're just like, "This is the one."
It was like the one from college that that the guy of the relationship just didn't want to throw out because there's so many good times watching football games on there and stuff. Yeah. So that's probably what they do. It's probably like a term of endearment. If you like, I volunteer as tribute for my couch, and everyone's like, "This hero in the fan base." Yep. You become the mascot there for a while too. Also, we got the A&M Notre Dame game, which is going to be great. Georgia Clemson, and cannot forget the other top 25 matchup. This one's actually on Sunday. Yeah. So Sunday night college football, if you will. The two teams that are probably the most notoriously known for just using the three letters of their school, USC and LSU, playing in Vegas over at Allegiant Stadium.
So I was supposed to go to this game because I was supposed to go to a bachelor trip this weekend, and I just decided, I was like, too much going on, is what it is. I was supposed to be at this game. So shout out to my buddies that are going to be having a good time there. I'm sure they will be properly hydrated, and I will be a little bit envious, but LSU loves playing on this Sunday.
Yeah.
I went one year I went to them versus Miami in Cowboy Stadium on a Sunday night, which is pretty fun, but they played Florida State on Sunday last year. I think they played Florida State on Sunday the year before, and they never play in their home stadium. It's always like in New Orleans or Dallas, or this time in Vegas. That's a fun game. I don't know what to make of USC. I mean, obviously replacing Caleb Williams. I don't know much about their roster, but I'd imagine like they're still pretty good. I mean, Lincoln Riley should have those guys cooking. I kind of like USC as an underdog. LSU's favored by 4. I don't know if I'm buying the hype of the Tigers. I kind of want to see USC get the job done.
I kind of do as well. There's just something about Brian Kelly. It's just crazy because I know that it's happened before. The dude had a Heisman Trophy winner last year, and they went 9-3, right? I think is what the record was. Maybe 8-4.
Who, USC or LSU?
LSU.
I think LSU went 9-3.
Okay, so if they went 9-3, it's just like, man, you had a Heisman Trophy winner, and it feels like that LSU has had issues, some sort of at least one glaring issue each year that Brian Kelly's been there, whether it's their poor defense or something. So. I don't know. Yeah, I want to see a little bit more of that, which I really don't like Lincoln Riley, though. So I'm kind of torn in this one.
Yeah. You remember back in the day when LSU, it seemed like they never had a quarterback. Like they always had like a loaded roster, but their quarterback would be Jordan Jefferson or Jarrett Lee or like whoever, and they could never figure that out. Now all of a sudden LSU is just a quarterback factory Burrow and Jaden Daniels. I think I'm saying Garrett Nussmeier ruins it. I don't think he's going to continue the tradition. I don't think he's going to be an NFL quarterback. I think Garrett Nussmeier, more like Garrett Sussmeier, if you ask me.
I'm sure he's never been called that before.
No.
No, I do remember that because I laughed at LSU. I was like, how do you have like the most elite roster known to man, but the most important position you get just stinkers? Like, just doesn't make no sense. Because when 2007, the quarterback that won the national championship for him was Matt Flynn. And in 2003, who was their quarterback?
Matt Mock was the quarterback. Who nobody had ever. It was the same situation as Matt Flynn, like just a random fifth-year senior who was there forever. And they had Jamarcus Russell back in the day, who may be the biggest bust in NFL history, but like he was a good college quarterback.
Yeah, I think
they've had little moments.
Yeah, I think when the years Matt Mock or whatever, the years before that was Marcus Randall, and then after that was Jamarcus Russell, and then man, you just had some like I think Mettenberger was all right, you know, when he was there.
He was one of the guys they were like. They thought he was a god because he was the first competent quarterback they had in like a decade.
Yes.
It's kind of like Alabama, where like a lot of the Alabama teams that win the title are when they have quarterback concerns. Like Jacob Coker won a title there. Greg McElroy won a title. But like Tua, when he was a starter, never won the title. Jalen Hurts got benched in the title game the year they won it. But it's like Bama's almost more dangerous when they have Blake Sims at quarterback than they are if they have like a legitimately good one. So I don't know. It's just one of those things, man.
Yeah, I think A.J. McCarron won like 2, probably should have won 3 national titles. Yeah. And, you know, he's fine. But, yeah, that was – but here's a throwback going back to LSU. And maybe you'll remember this. I'm sure you will, Andrew. The quarterback that I actually thought was going to be really good for LSU, but issues, Ryan Paralleau. You remember him?
Dude, I thought he was going to be so nasty. I can't remember who it was that they chose over him because he transferred to like – he got kicked off the team because he got arrested or something like that. And I can't remember. I think it might have been Mettenberger that they chose over him. And I remember like it was like a quarterback battle, but he went to like Jacksonville State or something like that and balled out. But like I remember Ryan Paralleau was supposed to be like a big deal. When he got kicked off the team, it like broke the internet in Louisiana.
Yeah, he was a 5-star player too, like coming out of high school, like big time player. So
I see Clint's been killing it in the chat today, but he said TJ Finley. By the way, shout out TJ Finley. Started his career at LSU. Went to Auburn, stunk at both of those stops, went to Texas State, and battled with Malik Hornsby, ended up winning that battle and starting for them. Now he's somewhere else. I forget where it's at, but he's at a 4th school now.
Oh, my goodness.
But like he just keeps on bouncing around. He's like, that's what college football is these days. You just get to always wonder. Oh, he's at Western Kentucky now. That's where it is. So he's playing Alabama this weekend. So how about that?
How about, well, that was speaking of that, you know who, when I was watching the Minnesota game last night against North Carolina, and I see on the sidelines, Jack Lindsey.
Where's he at?
He's at Minnesota.
As like a coach?
No, I'm pretty sure he plays. He's wearing a uniform. I'll need it up. Well, that was what my buddy Devin said, so I don't, he could have been.
Okay, I was going to say that's sketchy because Jack Lindsey started a game at Arkansas in 2019.
I know. That's why I was kind of like, what was going on there? But
there's no way he's playing quarterback.
Okay,
no,
like I said,
he must be talking about. No. Hold on. There's a Lindsey that's in Minnesota, but it's not him. It's the kid that was at Fayetteville the past few years.
Is that not? So who was? Which
That's
Lindsey?
Different Lindsey. Who's like he was supposed to be like Drake Lindsey, I think is his name, and he was like a legitimate recruit and stuff.
Yep. Okay. You're right. Okay. Now, because I was
like, there's no way, but yeah, that. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Shout out to Devin. We see where his brain was going.
Yep. Yeah. Drake Lindsey. Okay. That's he is 6'5", 230. Good grief.
Yeah. He was like a pretty solid recruit. Mm-hmm. He had a great career at Fayetteville.
Yeah. Okay. So now, okay. I was about to say, I was like, man, that guy he's found every single loophole in the world to stay eligible for college football.
Shout out to Jack Lindsey for starting a game against Missouri.
Yep. He started as many games as Connor Nolan and
John Stephen Jones too.
John Stephen Jones. Yep. That was the greatest, man. 8 starting quarterbacks in 2 seasons. Not many teams pull that off. Which actually, speaking of when we were talking about LSU, what was the year that they used 2 quarterbacks and it was like they bring in, like it wasn't just like, oh, trying to figure it out. No, like they were like, we're using a 2 quarterback system, and there was like the thrower, and then there was like the runner.
I want to say it was Jordan Jefferson and Jarrett Lee.
Yes, you're okay.
Yeah, but maybe there was I think there actually might have been a third guy that was mixed in there, but I remember they went with Jarrett Lee and he had 5 straight games with a pick six or something crazy like that. It was one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
Man, yeah, I went back and just the amount. It just again shows you how much talent LSU had elsewhere when the quarterback situation was just a disaster.
Right? They would go like 11-1 with these cats at quarterback.
Yep. I mean, they went. They were one of the, I thought at the time at least, one of the best college football teams ever with that 2011 team.
Yeah.
And went to the championship and scored a big goose egg against Bama.
Happened to run into one of the other best college football teams of all time.
Yep. Just happened to play out that you were going really back when for some of those things.
Shout out to Mike Gundy for making that happen because they had to lose to Iowa State in the second to last week of the year to set that up. It was good times.
To set up the national championship, yeah.
Because it was Arkansas. You remember Arkansas was like number 7 or 8, and then 4 teams everybody lost that last week, and so Arkansas moved up to 3, and it was like, oh wow.
Mm-hmm. Because that was the year too where because I remember watching back when it was a thing, the BCS countdown or whatever on Sundays. I remember just watching that profusely, like, oh my gosh, we're gonna be number 3 and they were number 3, and I was so pumped. But then I remember talking about it with my family and friends. I'm like, even if Arkansas beat LSU, they're not putting Arkansas in the national championship. They're just not going to do it. LSU and Bama, yeah, but no. Even if Arkansas beat LSU, because I think LSU had already won the West, or I don't know. I don't remember how that would have worked because it would have been a 3-way tie.
Yeah, because Bama beat Arkansas, and so if Arkansas had beaten LSU, LSU beat Bama, you would have had the legit 3-way tie where it would have come down to ranking, and so it would have been up to their discretion.
They ain't giving it to Arkansas. Come on, let's be real about it, man. Yeah, and that was the reason why Arkansas couldn't play in a BCS bowl game because back then they're like, you can only have 2 teams from a conference in BCS bowl games. So you got number 6 versus number 8 Kansas State in the Cotton Bowl, but then in the Sugar Bowl was number 14 Michigan versus number 24 West Virginia. Made no sense. So, all right, well, that was a great show, fast moving show, and everything. That's right. Any final thoughts before we get out of here, Andrew?
I have a few final thoughts. Now, guys, I encourage you to bet responsibly. I'm not guaranteeing that these bets hit, but these bets are going to hit. Don't be scared of the big favorites in week 1. I mentioned TJ Finley going to Bama to play against those guys with the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers, former Bobby Petrino stop. Bama's favored by 31.5. I feel like they win this game 52-4. I know it's one of those things where you're like, oh, are they really going to blow them out? Saban, I get it. Bama football might not be the same without Nick Saban. It ain't going to matter this week. They're going to hammer Western Kentucky. Ole Miss plays Furman. The Furman, I believe they're the Paladins. 42.5 is that spread. Lane Kiffin covers spreads, especially when it's against bad teams. I think they might score 70 in that game, realistically. Another one I like is Oregon versus Idaho, former Paul Petrino team. They're favored by 43.5. I think the Oregon Ducks might win the national title this year, John.
Wow.
I really like Oregon's roster. I love their receivers, and I think Dylan Gabriel's a really good college quarterback.
Okay. That's a bold prediction. I guess they just need to get rid of Bo Nix finally to get to that point to where they can play and win a national championship. I actually did have a bet too that I'm taking because I'm feeling pretty good about it. Give me Vanderbilt at plus 13.5 against Virginia Tech.
I like that too.
Yep.
I like that.
Yep.
Vanderbilt went 1-11 against the spread that last year. They'll be better this year, right?
Surely that'll happen for them. But Virginia Tech, they don't have what's his name from Memphis as the head coach anymore, right?
Fuente,
yeah.
He was a hot name in the coaching streets for a while.
Big time. I remember I was one of those guys that thought I wanted him at Arkansas, but yeah, it didn't work out.
Yeah, it looks like their coach is now a young man by the name of Brent Pry.
Him. I don't know where he came from.
Coordinator from Penn State.
Oh, well, there you go.
He was a defensive coordinator at Penn State from 2016 to 2021. So shout out to him. He's been there for a couple of years now. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, well, there you go. And the other one that I wanted to go with was the South Carolina Old Dominion. South Carolina's favored by 21.5. Give me Old Dominion. I like
it. I like that.
I'm so against Shane Beamer. So I just don't think they're good. I think they're frauds, and I think that this game's going to be weirdly close. So
are they playing the football team or the music group?
Who's the music group of Old Dominion? What that song they do?
There's a band called Old Dominion.
Yeah, I was trying to remember what song they did.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, anyways, no, I think they're playing the football team this time around. I think they are.
Well, and then I think the football team might have a chance to cover. But if it was the music group, I think the Gamecocks, Rocket Sanders would abuse them.
Yep. Well, hey, listen, if you want to go to the game and see Rocket Sanders play, it's $5 to get in. So check it out today. But either way, we appreciate each and every one of you listening in, watching in to Inside Arkansas Live. Be sure to subscribe to all of our great content at Inside Arkansas, as well as check out our website at InsideArkansas.com for all the great content that's going up there each and every day. And enjoy your Labor Day weekend, folks. Know we're going to have some constant content coming out there. And just as a reminder, next Wednesday night, 6 p.m., come out and see us at the Leroy in Fayetteville on Dixon Street. We're going to be hanging out, having some guests, and just chilling with some great vibes, great music, great drinks, great food, great everything. So be sure to come out and see us. So for Andrew Ellis, I'm John Neighbors. Same sports show, same sports channel next week. Have a great Labor Day weekend, everybody.